What's going on, guys? Welcome to Angelo podcast. Today's video is about how to get a job in tech. I'm actually feel that I'm well versed to talk about this. I've gotten jobs at Meta, Google, Apple, Airbnb, and I've worked in tech for the past few years or so with internships with regards to full-time jobs. So I feel like I'm really well versed to talk about this. And this is more or less for people who are in trying to get not into like an engineering job, but more so like the business side, marketing, accounting, whatever it may be that's not engineering, not technical based, because this is kind of what I've learned through my experience interviewing, right? And these jobs that are business based, non technical, they still pay pretty well. They're about 20% less than engineering salary. So think of if you're making around, say, 400,000 as an engineer, you'll make around, say, 20% less, or around like 320, which is still a ton of money, especially if you're trying to take care of your family or if you're like a single person who just is looking to get a job to succeed and do well in life, right? So let's dive in on my plan and how I was able to get multiple job offers in the tech sector. The first thing you need to do is you need to treat the job search as like a sales funnel. What do I mean by a sales funnel? Sales funnel means like if you've ever worked for a company that sell something. I've worked at a company. I've like had to sell like insurance, so like my first ever internship, and I was like, okay, what do I do? So the first thing they taught us was that sales is all a numbers game. So when you are in a sales job, your objective is to run a lot of volume, and this could be through a lot of cold calls, a lot of reaching out to customers, to clients, run a lot of volume. So for me, I had a ratio, initial number I set up of 50. 50 cold calls was like when I was at the sales company. So I kind of applied that to my funnel for applying to jobs. 50 jobs a day keeps the unemployment away. That's what I would always tell myself. So first thing I would do is I would apply to 50 jobs a day. How do I do that? Well, I really utilize Indeed.com, LinkedIn, and just going to company websites that I was really interested in. So if I was really wanting to work in a company like, say, Snapchat, I would apply to all the jobs that I feel applicable to me at Snapchat. Once I did that, I'd go to like LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn, if you type in your certain job that you're looking for, like say program manager, a product manager, an engineer, whatever it may be, LinkedIn will have all the jobs that are relevant to you and they think that you'd be a good fit to apply for within that role. So for me, I applied to a lot of program manager jobs, right? This is because I was really interested in finding jobs that were applicable to my career. I was applying to program management jobs and technical program manager jobs. Those two jobs fit my resume, fit my career, and I felt that I was a good fit for it. So I would apply to those 50 jobs. After applying to those 50 jobs, this would take me about an hour or two a day, right? So it is a big time commitment. When you apply to those jobs, there are some jobs that would like how like LinkedIn Easy Apply or Indeed Easy Apply. Those jobs, as well as the ones where like the the jobs where you apply to like on a company website, you don't have to open like a workday account. Those jobs would be a lot quicker, and those are whenever I hit those jobs. Those are ones where I kind of hit like that 1 hour mark to apply, and then the ones where I had to open like a lot of workday accounts, those ones took about 2 hours. So that's one thing to do. Apply to a ton of jobs on LinkedIn, Indeed. Take you about an hour a day. 50, you're done. And once you do that, you have the rest of your day to go, right? So imagine applying to 50 jobs a day. After 7 days, you're at 350. You have a high amount of volume. The reason this is so important is because applying to jobs is like a sales game. It is a sales game. You are selling yourself to your employer. When you sell yourself to your employer, you're trying to show off your skills that, yo, I can do this job well. I need to apply to 50 jobs a day so that way I have a better chance of getting that yes. Because remember, at the end of the day, it just takes one yes for you to change your life, to get that amazing job that you can take care of your family, that you can reinvest in yourself through your investments, through your finance, through using those money you get from that employer to get new skills, whatever it may be. It only takes one yes. So the hardest part of this is always the mental game. The mental game of saying, oh, they're not calling me back. There's something wrong with me. Reality, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You're getting yourself submitted through a job site, right? When I was talking to a lot of my friends in recruiting, especially the ones at Meta, especially the ones at Google, they would tell me that, okay, Angelo, applying to a job is great, but you need to take the emotional part out of it. What does that mean? You apply to a job, you are basically setting yourself up through a job application portal. You're going through thousands of people applying, right? So the recruiter only usually takes a look at the top of the pile that so if they have 1,000 people apply, they're probably looking at the first 100 or 200, right? And then on top of that, there's an algorithm being sorted. So you're sending your resume in, and the algorithm doesn't like you. You're not getting picked for that job. So you need to keep in mind that when the recruiter sifts through your resume, you have been screened by an algorithm already. And then if there's 2,000 people applying, the recruiter's not going to go through all 3,000 applications. They're going to probably go with the first couple hundred, right? So keep in mind, setting yourself up for success is a sales game. So applying to a lot of jobs, you want to just put yourself in the right spots to get lucky. That's what I always tell myself, especially for these large companies. You got to realize when you're applying to a company like Google, like Meta, like Snapchat, like Airbnb, there are hundreds, thousands of people trying to compete with you. And these people have lots and lots and lots of experience. So keep in mind, sometimes that it's all a numbers game. At the end of the day, it's all a numbers game. So don't get discouraged when you apply a lot of jobs and you don't hear back, or you keep getting that. After careful consideration, we have decided to not accept you, right? So it's all a numbers game. And keep in mind, when you apply to those big companies, there's a lot of people applying. But also when you apply to smaller companies, like with around 10,000 employees, a couple hundred employees, 500 employees, a couple 1,000 employees, you more likely are likely to get seen, because the pool of people you're competing against, they are, there's not as many. I have had jobs where the company is looking to hire an analyst, pays like around 150,000, and after weeks, my manager gets back to us, hey, no one applied to this job. So keep that in mind wherever you apply. Just keep applying, because you could get lucky where you're the only one or two people applying to that job, and you get the job because you applied and no one else applied, and you're basically going against one or two other people. So with that being said, part one of it is to apply to 50 jobs a day. This will help you produce 350 applications that specific week. Compound that over 4 weeks. Over a month, you're at 1,200 plus you're at 1,400 after 4 weeks in a month of applying jobs. One of the best things I've heard at Google was a manager telling me that he really wanted to go to Google, and we got let go the first time from his other job. He treated applications like a full-time job. So if you're trying to get a full-time job, apply like crazy. It's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. So this is the first step in the funnel, 50 jobs a day. Next step is that you usually will get 1 or 2 emails back from those 50 jobs you applied to a day. And those will be like, hey, Angelo, hey, person, thank you so much for applying. We loved your resume. We want to do a phone screen. When you do that phone screen, it will most likely be with the recruiter. And the one thing you need to really know about recruiters is that they are very nice, they're very cool, and they just want to make sure you're a solid person. Usually they vet your resume with the hiring manager. So they send your resume to the hiring manager already approved it, and the hiring manager 99% of the time wants to interview you, but the recruiter wants to make sure you're cool. What does that mean? It wants to make sure you're not weird. Now, when I mean weird, I mean like you're not gonna just mess up the role with the hiring manager. So they usually just ask you that, hey, Angelo, please tell me about yourself. Tell them about yourself, where you went to college, what your experiences, your relevant experiences, your current or latest role, and then usually just 15, 20 minutes. They send you over to the hiring manager for the next round of interviews, right? The reason that's important is because don't take the recruiter to be someone who's extremely highly technical or someone who's very well versed in your certain role. There'll be times where the recruiter really knows about your role, but most of the time the recruiter has around 20 or 30 recs. Recs means that they're recruiting around for 20 or 30 roles, and you're just one of the roles that they're recruiting for, and they just need someone to get hired. They just need someone to get hired. So when you are actually applying to these jobs, know that, hey, the recruiter thinks you're cool. They just want to make sure you're a normal person, right? So just talk about your role, like where you went to college, what your experience is, why you feel like you're a good fit. And 99% of the time, recruiter will pass you on to the hiring manager, okay? And then once you get passed on to the hiring manager, usually for most companies, it's around a 20 to 30 minute interview asking about your experience and any behavioral experiences you may have, right? So most of the time, whenever I interviewed at Meta, Google, Airbnb, all the questions were very similar in the sense that, can you tell me about a time you did XYZ? Can you tell me about a time you've worked with stakeholders to achieve a common goal in this project? Can you tell me about a time you had stakeholder disagreement? Can you tell me about a time you had to use analytics to push a project through and make sure it was successful? Those are usually the questions you get asked by the hiring manager. After you interview with the hiring manager, this is like kind of one of the key parts, right? You do a 20, 30 minute interview with the hiring manager. The best way to prep for that is by looking through your resume, making sure you hit everything that you feel like is relevant to your role. First question is always, can you tell me about yourself? That is a 1 minute elevator pitch. So imagine me and you were talking. I just want to get to know you for 1 minute. Imagine it is like, show me you're fascinating. Show me you're interesting. You have 1 minute of my time to make sure you and I can get along. So take that seriously, right? The way I do is talk about my college, where I've worked, kind of 2 or 3 key experiences from that, and then why I feel like I'm a really good fit for the role. By doing this, you show the hiring manager, okay, I've done this this is relative to this role. I think I'll be a good fit because X, Y, Z, right? You're really showcasing yourself. 1 minute elevator pitch. Imagine you're an entrepreneur. You want to pitch to an investor. This is why I think my company is going to be successful. For you, I am this person. This is why I think I'll be successful on your team, your company, and this is why you should hire me, right? 1 minute, good. Okay, after that elevator pitch, you have around 2, 3, maybe even 4 questions with the hiring manager. Where I was mentioning before, tell me about a time you use analytics to solve a problem. Tell me about a time you had to work with stakeholders to see a project through. Tell me about a time you had to deal with difficult people in your workforce and you had to still solve this issue or this problem. Tell me about a time where you had to work with senior leadership to create something, right? All of these questions are all similar and the same throughout every company, especially if you're interviewing through a business side or business type of role. For me, it was all the same. Keep it 100, and that's how I got offers from different companies because I was like, oh my god, I've kind of realized it, right? And the way you answer these questions is really important. Is through the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. At Google, I learned a lot about how to kind of answer these questions, right? Because at Google, you have around 5 or 6 interviews, and I was strong hire for all 5 or 6 of those interviews, right? So I didn't have to go through the hiring committee because I was a strong hire for all of them, right? So I really mastered the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, and result. So one example I can kind of walk you through is like, hey, Angelo, tell me about a time you had to work with stakeholders, right? So one time at Google, we had an issue with the hardware, so we had to fix it and build it out. So I worked my task was to work with the engineering team to figure out what the bill of materials was for each of this hardware parts. My action was, after working with the engineering team, I worked with finance to determine what the cost would be for each hardware part from our vendors, and then I worked with the engineering team to figure out where we can find a specific delivery time for these certain parts. As a result, we were able to work with finance and lower the cost down of a hardware part by 20%, and the engineering team was able to ship a product within 3 months, right? Something of that nature. But just get highly specific in what you did. But remember, each response needs to be kept to around 1 minute or less, right? This is because the attention span of your interviewer is finite, in the sense where they just want clear, concise stuff, interview responses where they can actually take down the notes. We accomplished this, we accomplished that, we're good, boom, on to the next question. And then at the end, you will be given chances to ask the interviewer questions for themselves. This is very important that you do not say, I don't have any questions, appreciate you, peace, catch you later, right? So the reason you make sure you have questions is because they want to make sure you're paying attention. So I always predetermine the questions prior to interviewing. I will go on the website, find out what job role they're working on, look at their LinkedIn, and then find out what they did and see if I can formulate any questions behind that pertinent to the role. Also, this is key. In the beginning of the interview, you will get asked if you know anything about the job. Tell them, like, yeah, I kind of did my research, I heard this, this, and that. And then you'll say, please tell me a little bit more about the role. Really fascinating, really interested in hearing about the job. Can you please tell me a bit more about it? Once you do that, they'll tell you about the role. And it's really, really important you take notes down, right? So take notes down. They'll give you 2-3 minutes of them telling you about the job. As they tell you about the job, you want to take notes down and then put it like on a Google Doc on the side. Copy and paste that to, say, like your favorite AI, like ChatGPT or Bard. Ask Bard, ChatGPT to rephrase that, and then help them ask ChatGPT. Okay, tell ChatGPT or Bard, hey, I am interviewing right now. Please come up with 3 or 4 questions that I can ask in the interview with these notes I've provided. So this will help you have follow-up questions at the end of the interview. For me, I used to do this just through the top of my head. Like I feel like I have a very good conversation with working with people. So I've always done this, just typing notes on the side and then coming up on the spot. What question can I do to further learn more about the specific role, specific job that they're currently interviewing for, right? This is really, really, really good, especially if you're trying to interview and trying to make sure that, hey, Angelo cares. He really heard me throughout the interview. Because at the end of the day, you need to remember, the person you're interviewing with is another person too. And they just want to feel like you care about the role, you'll be a good fit, and that you're someone who'll be fun, enjoyable to work with, okay? And don't ever forget that. At the other side of it is another person who's just as nervous, who's just as anxious, had a lot of stuff on their plate with regards to work, probably has a family who they're trying to support and do well. And so you doing well, coming on board is a big investment for them, because they need to make sure you do well, because they're managing team and they want to do well in their job to progress their career, take care of their family, and basically take care of the people they love, right? So always keep in mind, the other person on the other side of that is another person, okay? So those are my tips for working with the hiring manager in an interview. After that, you get 5 or 6 rounds with the team, right? Most of the time, the questions are rather similar from the hiring manager. So study the questions you have from the hiring manager. Those other 5 or 6 interviews for me at Google were just people on different teams, so there was no bias amongst members, and the questions were all very similar, right? But one thing you need to keep in mind is that you can use the same example, right, you use for different interviewers, but make sure you don't repeat the same example for a different interview experience. Because what does that mean? Because, so say I interviewed with Brad. Brad asked me a question, I gave one example, he asked me another question, I gave a different example. Don't repeat the same example with Brad. But then when you interview with Jeff, the next interview, you can have the same examples you used with Brad, but just don't repeat the same ones you did with that certain person, right? So don't give your experience about engineering experience about like your hardware parts and then the finance parts. Like don't repeat with the same person. Just make sure you do it with different people. That way they can write down that certain example for you when they go in through the applicant tracks, when they go and put in the notes for the interview, right? So most of the times, these big tech companies, there'll be 5 or 6 rounds. So round one with the recruiter, round two with the hiring manager, and then 4 rounds with the people in the hiring within the company that aren't directly related to the team or maybe directly related to the team. It just depends on how the company's interview process is. For most big tech companies, you will also go through a hiring committee. I learned this at Airbnb as well as at Meta and at Google. Google, because I had a lot of friends in the recruiting side. If you have all strong hires, you'll get passed on. For Airbnb, when I was at Airbnb, I was sitting into a lot of the hiring committee stuff, and they would basically say, "Hey, we're hiring for this role." That person passed around 4, 6 of the interviews, and then they'll get sent to a hiring committee. In the hiring committee, it's where they basically poke and prod your resume. So it's around, when I was there, it was like around 5 or 6 engineers who had time to come in and review the applications who passed the initial rounds of interviews, and then they'll say yes or no, yes or no. It was interesting when I was there. Like a lot of the big tech companies, like if you're getting an applicant from Meta or Apple, usually they'd pass. Like they'd say, "All right, we like this guy, go on." And then when sometimes around the smaller, lesser known companies, it was kind of hard for them to pass the rounds. But usually you can remedy that through strong hire. Keep in mind, like when you interview and you come from a big tech company, there's like there's unintentional personal bias where we vetted this person has already been vetted through a large tech company like an Apple, like a Meta, like a Google. That'd probably be a good fit here because this is what we're trying to become. We're trying to become a billion-dollar company, right? And that's just human nature. At the end of the day, like we all try and remove bias from the processes. However, I think sometimes human nature does play a factor in a sense where big companies, you've been vetted through this, you've worked in a similar process where it's been very hard to move up the ranks, to actually get a job here. So you'll probably do well at our company that's trying to grow it too. So just keep that in mind, right? And if I can leave you guys with one piece of advice before I end this podcast, is that you need to understand that this is a sales process, right? 50 jobs a day keeps unemployment away. You get 1 or 2 calls back to interview with the hiring manager, and then from that, you'll have like a 10% chance of getting a job after interviewing with the hiring manager. It's really small. That's why it's really important to apply those 50 jobs a day to make sure that you are running high volume. Applying to jobs is a sales funnel. Keep that in mind, especially when you're new in your career. Especially when you're new in your career, because you have no experience. Even if you're later on in your career, right? There are a lot of people applying for your jobs, especially manager jobs, right? You have a lot of experience. Why would the company try and like hire you if they can hire someone cheaper, right? So they're always going to try and like optimize for certain things, right? But don't get discouraged. There's nothing wrong with you. You have the skills. If you don't have the skills, acquire those skills. Go learn how to code. Go learn how to make dashboards. Go learn all these things. Showcase in a portfolio. Go to grad school if you really want to move up. Get an MBA. Go to grad school. Get a master's in computer science if you really want to learn how to code. Go to boot camp. Do whatever you can to really make yourself that person who can achieve and succeed in this corporate life, in this corporate world, okay? Because I believe in you. I truly believe in you. Without a doubt, you can do it. I've came from hard beginnings where I had no idea what was going to happen in my career. I was a biology major. I did not know what I was going to do with my career. I did not know I was going to get into technology. But I believed in myself. First generation, everything I had to do, I had to earn. I had to pay for school. I had to pay for grad school. I had to pay for undergrad. I had to pay $200,000 just to go to school and take out loans, not knowing how I was going to do it, but I just believed in myself, right? So if I can do it, you can too. Don't be afraid of success. Take massive risks in your life, especially when you're young, because the world deserves the best version of you. With that being said, Jello family, please like, comment, subscribe. I'll be producing more videos like this to help you guys out with your career, with your journey, whatever it may be. And I appreciate y'all. Jello family, I love you guys. Peace. Have an amazing day.